Hello, Reds from around the world. Thank you so much for joining me here for this preview of Manchester United versus Wolves. I'm absolutely wonderfully delighted to be welcomed here by Barry and Buddy Holly's grandson, James Ridge, the wonderful Natalie, and the author of, oh my God, you've told me twice. What is the name of your book again, John? Sorry.
No problem. Even the Defeats.
Even the Defeats, and the author of Even the Defeats, John Silk. Guys, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm absolutely overjoyed to have you here. For some of you, for the first time in a preview with me, but I've worked with you at some point. All of you, some of you too much, James, and some of you not enough, the rest of you. So thanks so much for joining me here. Guys, before we go into this, please sound off in the comments your thoughts. We're obviously previewing the Wolves game. And give us your thoughts on how you think we're going to do. And also make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow everyone here on Twitter and all the social medias. But before we go talking about the game, I actually haven't heard any of your point of views because I haven't seen you on anything post the Leicester game. So, John, we'll go to you first. The 2-2 draw, do you think that was a good result considering the way the weekend went, or is it 2 points dropped?
Listen, if you had said that we wouldn't lose any ground to Liverpool, Spurs, in fact, we even gained a point on Chelsea, given the fact that we had a much trickier assignment, I think you'd be happy. Winning 2-1 with 5 minutes to go changes the dynamic a little bit. But despite a lot of the criticism coming the way, I've seen some people on social media having a go at McTominay again, David De Gea, one misplaced pass, Martial and all the rest of it. I actually thought we played quite well. You know, this is a really different situation to 12 months ago where, you know, we were struggling and losing at home to Burnley and losing away at Newcastle. And, you know, we're actually, Champions League aside, those two results against Paris Saint-Germain and Leipzig, you know, the last 10, 11 games, we're playing well. We should have won. We were the better team against the third or fourth best team in the league right now. And I think we can take heart from Liverpool continuously dropping points.
Yeah, absolutely fair enough. Natalie, we come to you at the same point. 2-2 draw. We were discussing this last night on the Wall of Reds, and it felt like the general consensus was 2 points dropped, but we all played very well, and there's a lot of heart to take from it, unless we're a good team. But for you, looking at the way the results went, is it a point dropped, or 2 point dropped, or a point gained?
It's hard, isn't it? It probably, I mean, looking at it in the end, it's sort of like a point gain, but it's looking at the other results is a point drop. But obviously Leicester, for me, when it happened, like actually on the day, I felt, you know, Leicester are a good side. Let's not underestimate them. I think obviously, you know, we went ahead and it was gutting that we went behind, but I think we need to look at where we are. It's progression. We're constantly progressing. We've not been defeated. You know, potentially a couple of years ago we could have got beaten there. We have been beaten there. So let's not look at it as a bad thing. Let's look at it as we've got to point out that, you know, Spurs went there and lost. So for me, or lost at home to them or something like that. But, you know, in their top two, they've won the league more recent than us. So I think, you know, they've got good team there. And I think, yes, we want to beat them, but everyone else has dropped points. I mean, Liverpool to West Brom, we're not going to talk about it, but, you know, that a game where people said, oh, you can't be just winning 1-0. And, you know, we're the only team that's beat West Brom now, you know, and then Sam making it a lot tougher now. So for me, it's good. It's good. It's progression. We've still got that unbeaten run away from home, and it's good.
Absolutely. There is a lot of positives coming now, especially since we won't talk about Liverpool drawing to West Brom, but we sure can laugh at them. James, for yourself, what are your thoughts on the 2-2 draw now?
I'm probably just going to be echoing the two before me, but I think I see it as more of a point gained than 2 points dropped, just because of the results around us. I think even if you compare it to the fixture at the end of last season where we beat them 2-0, I think we played better today than we did then. So I think that's encouraging as well, because I don't think we really deserved to win 2-0 last time out, but I think we deserved to win yesterday. So, you know, that's a little bit disappointing, but it's also encouraging that we're putting in such good, consistent performances, because, you know, it's been a long time now in the Premier League where I think we've actually deserved to lose a game, which is not what you could say for this time last season. So, yeah, I think a point against Leicester, like Natalie said, is something that City failed to do. It's something that Spurs failed to do. So it's definitely not a bad result at all. I think, well, if we can get a few defensive reinforcements in this January, then we could be looking really solid, because just a few little mistakes at the back have cost us, and going forward, if we can get those out, then we could be genuine challengers, dare I say it.
Oh, he said it. We're winning the league. James just admitted it. You all heard it there. Clip that, guys. Clip that and remind him about he said it in May. But yeah, guys, of course, this is the 3-point preview, and Ben will kill me if I don't say his catchphrase. It's called the 3-point preview because how can you look forward to 3 points without saying 3 points? Okay, that's not actually the catchphrase. I made a balls of it, but that seems to be what I do every morning anyway, so it's grand. So the 3 points we'll be covering are our home and away form, our right back positioning disaster that we have at the moment, and also the kind of continuous debate of Martial or Cavani, because one person performing every time he comes on and the other person isn't really. So I think we'll go with, just because it seems to be the most prevalent, the right back positioning issue, because Wan-Bissaka is back training, as John just told me before we went on air, and also Lindelof, who covered the other day against Leicester, looks like he could be out for an extended period. We're not really sure the extent of that injury, which isn't good. And we've also let Delo go on loan, which we can't let come back. So, John, what do you think is going to happen now with that right back? And also, how do you think Lindelof did in that position against Leicester?
I think it was an issue throughout the Leicester game. I think as much as anything from an attacking point of view, I mean, don't forget that the equaliser came down the right-hand side of the Leicester attack and therefore the left-hand side of our defence. So it wasn't really an issue for either of the 2 goals that we conceded. So I actually think the thing where we miss out most is from the attacking point of view, because whoever plays there, whether it be Lindelof, or obviously now he's injured, but whether it be Bailly fits in there, Fosu-Mensah, even Tuanzebe, I know he was praised for his performance at right-back against Everton in the Cup. I didn't think he offered a lot going forward. And I know that's also an element of criticism with Wan-Bissaka, but he is the most natural fit there at right back. And with this, as you say, with Dalot on loan, he's probably the only real option. Whenever Fosu-Mensah plays there and I see him receive possession, I'm just like, oh, please give it to someone else, because I just know that he's not going to be a marauding right back in the way that someone like Kieran Trippier is, for example, at Atletico Madrid, who I know we've been linked with. So I do think it's an issue. And I think, therefore, despite the doubts over his fitness, he might want to rush Wan-Bissaka back. I mean, even if he is just back in training today, we'll see. Guessing the lineups these days, I'm the worst person in the world for guessing the lineups. I think I get 6 or 7 right, and that's when I'm on a good day in terms of the predictions. But you know what? I'm going to put my neck on the block, and I'm going to say Wan-Bissaka's going to start, because I just think it's so desperate in that position.
Speaking about being terrible about selecting lineups, right after this video, all the folks here will be putting a predicted lineup into the YouTube chat. So make sure to give John a like, but also to question his lineup as well. Natalie, for you, how do you think Lindelof did at right back, and how do you think we're going to fill that position going forward if Wan-Bissaka, okay, the problem is as well, Wan-Bissaka can't play every single minute of every single game, and if an injury does come up, it just shows how weak we are. So do you think we'll invest, or do you think we're going to try push someone else out there?
I think, he was mentioned, Kieran Trippier, and I think once he was first mentioned, everyone was like, why? No, we need someone better. But I think it's just shown that we do need a right back, kind of urgently. I would play Wan-Bissaka. I know it's sort of a bit, hit and miss, will he, won't he? But I would, because for me, he's our best right back. I think Lindelof did all right, just from what I saw. Then obviously he had to go off, and whether that sort of affected us, I'm not making any excuses for anyone. But, I think I rate Lindelof. I think he's a decent defender, but obviously it looks like he's out for a while now. I think maybe bring in some of the under-23 lads, I'm not saying he can do a job, but if we are dead struggling, so like Teddy Mengi, I know he plays usually centre back, but they usually bring a centre back at right back first just to build them up, or like was just said, Fosu-Mensah. But I think for us, I don't know. It's just something about him that I'm not fully convinced yet. I think he's been here a long time and he's not really made it his own. I'm not saying it is tough to get into this team, but I'd rather see a younger, more potential player there than Fosu-Mensah now, and it looks like in Trippier maybe for that little bit of experience. Yeah,
I would love if Mengi came up, and because of course he seems to be top class talent, but also he's in my fantasy football team, so I'd like to get a couple of points off him. He's been giving me 0 for every 15 weeks or whatever it's been, so I'd like to get 1 or 2 off him. But James, going forward, if we are bringing in someone else, will we look to the youth? Will we look to? I know Trippier can't play till probably the middle of February or whenever it is. I'm not sure when it's. Oh, maybe it's the last week of February. I think it is. Would it be good to invest in him and get a cheaper than what he would be because they'd have to sell him? Or do you think we should bring up someone from the youth rank? And also, how do you think Lindelof did against Leicester?
I think he did pretty well. I think his defensive abilities proved him well because he wasn't against sort of an electric winger in Harvey Barnes, was he? He's not known for his rapid pace. He's more of a technical player, which suited Lindelof to the ground, apart from his goal, obviously, where he was a bit embarrassed. But yeah, I thought he did all right, especially to say he was out of position. But I think we need to be looking, unless he's injured as well, we need to be looking at Brandon Williams because he's right-footed, playing left-back, which would suggest he can play right-back as well. But Solskjaer just doesn't seem to be having any faith in him at the minute. So if not him, then Tuanzebe, because I think while he didn't offer as much going forward, I don't think Wan-Bissaka does either. So I think we've adjusted our play style to avoid that overlap on the right as much as we can. So I don't think it'll be that much of a problem, really. But I wouldn't go out into the market and get a new right back because we've got two very good young right backs either at the club or out on loan in Williams and Dalot. Both of them can do a job. So I think you just got to stick with them for the time being because at 30, I think Kieran Trippier in the next couple of years will probably offer you as much as Dalot will before he starts declining, whereas Delot's only going to carry on getting better. So I don't really see the point in signing him. But if we did, it's an extra player, isn't it? You're not going to be complaining.
Yeah, no, that's very true, actually. And I actually didn't consider the point of our style of play wouldn't have to alter that much with Tuanzebe in that position instead of Wan-Bissaka. Although Wan-Bissaka is, for me, the best right back in the world. He might be in a little bit hot and cold, but at his peak, he is unstoppable. And guys, sound off in the comments. Do you think we should invest in a right back? Do you think we should promote from within, or do you think we should just keep it as it is and just play someone out of position? I don't know why you'd want to do that, but hey, throw it into the comments and we'll see what way it goes. So move on to our second point. We will look at. We're going to stay with starting lineups. We covered this a bit last night on Wall of Reds, but Cavani versus Martial. It seemed to me personally to be a kind of. It's pretty much obvious that Cavani should be starting whenever he's fit because I think Martial's hold of play is excellent. I think he's coming into the game a bit more, but he's just seemingly has no end product at this moment in time. And we're going against Wolves, who are like a kind of a bogey team for us because we don't tend to lose that often, but we don't tend to win that often again. It always seems to be a draw. So anyone who can make that bit of difference, have that bit of spark and a bit of life that can cause us to go from a draw to a win or from a loss to at least a draw, I think for me is Cavani. But we'll come to you, John. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think, along with probably most Reds, that I think it's time for Cavani to start a Premier League game. I think he's only started one so far. He's made lots of starts in the cup competitions, but I do think the Wolves game, it's time to throw him in from the beginning. Don't forget, of course, we have got a tiny advantage against Wolves, by the way, and that we'll have, I think, 24 hours more, right? We played on the 26th. Oh, yeah. Wolves played the 27th, I think. Yeah. So that's quite big at this time of year, But anyway, back to Cavani, I think it is time for him to start. I do think that Solskjaer has a slight reluctance in playing him 3 times in a week, for example, from the start. I think there was probably that in his mind about the Leicester game, given that he started and played 90 minutes against Everton in the Carabao Cup. So I think he was thinking another 90 minutes against Leicester and, what are you going to get from him? So I do think he's an excellent option from the bench, as we saw against Southampton, and I think we saw against Leicester. But I think it's time, if he's going to play a 2 or 3 up there, whatever formation he goes with, I think it's time for Cavani to start tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Shouting, guys, in the comments, please sound off. Do you think Cavani should start? Do you think we should be Martial, or do you think somehow try to fit both of them into the squad? Natalie, for yourself, which way would you like to go?
I would play Cavani. I think he's proven enough. I think he scored. He set up Bruno, but I can see why you didn't play him in a way. I think when they played him a lot before, he ended up getting an injury, and I think if you're bringing someone back, you can't just sort of chuck them in and get them to play every game. And I think it was right that he was sort of rested, brought on, changed the game. That's what you want from players off the bench. And I think, this time start Cavani. But I think Martial is coming into his own. He's looking a lot better from what I've seen from the start of the season. He's, linking up, his movement, his passing, is that kind of play. But for me, he's better on the wing. He's always been better on the wing. So I'd play him there. Maybe even like you just said, play him all three: Rashford, Cavani, and Martial. That might be my starting.
Yeah.
That might be my front three. Give him a tickets away to the rest of them. But yeah, why not? Let's see it.
No, that's fair enough. James, for yourself, are you a Cavani man or a Martial man? I'm trying to give us something cleverer than that, but that's all the best I can come up with.
I've got no preference over either of them at the minute. I think they're both coming to form now. I think Martial was offering more than people are actually thinking besides goals. But I think that the thing we're doing at the minute is working quite well in that you start Martial, let him and Rashford and then whoever's playing out on the right sort of tire the defence out and sort of, just get them all worn out. And then Cavani's movement can really exploit the tired defence in the final 20 minutes or so. And we've seen that the last couple of games. He came on and assisted yesterday, didn't he? Obviously against Southampton, he came on and just played brilliantly, 2 goals and an assist. And I think it's working really well at the minute. So I think you just stick with that. I think if you can get more movement out of Martial off the ball as well, just to really tire out that defence that's trying to mark him, because at the minute he's a bit stagnant and it's not that hard for them. But I think the way it's going at the minute, you just got to stick with it, stay with Martial, because he's always going to offer something, isn't he? If he gets out of this dry spell and gets his finishing back, then he could have easily had 7 or 8 goals this season already. So I think that will come back eventually, and I think you've just got to stick with him until it does. But yeah, I think if it's not broke, don't fix it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely fair enough. Before we go on to our last point, and guys, please keep your comments coming in. Always very much appreciated. I was just looking at our form against Wolves, just a quick refresher, and it's honestly not good. The last time we beat Wolves in the Premier League was 2012 when we beat them 5-0. We beat them once in the FA Cup, and we've drawn a couple of times, and we've lost once in the league and once lost in the FA Cup, and we beat them in the FA Cup as well. So it's not really something you want to write home about, but we're going to go into look at not so much that form directly, but we'll look at the fact we're at home for whatever reason seemed to be a disadvantage for us. We're top in the away form table, and I think we're 14th in the home form table, which isn't good enough for our club. So is being at home an advantage, John, or should we just be beating them no matter where we play them?
I think it's this home form, away form. I think there's a slight anomaly there in that I think it's more about the quality of opponents that we've played at home compared to the quality of the opponents we've played away. And we've played Man City at home, we've played Spurs at home, we've played Chelsea at home. So that's sort of 3 Champions League contenders at very least, possibly even title contenders where Man City are unfortunately concerned. We've also played Arsenal at home, and I know they've had their troubles, but we played them at a slightly different point in the season when Arsenal's form wasn't in the relegation form that they've been in the last 6 weeks. So I think that's a contributing factor. I really think home and away, really, as Solskjaer, I think, mentioned just a couple of days ago, it really is 50-50, doesn't matter a lot. I think those points about Wolves are relevant. I think this can play a part in that we haven't had a good record against them in the sort of 2 or 3 years since they've been back in the top flight. I do think the manager at Wolves, Nuno, is a great manager, and I think he sets his teams up very well. I feel, though, that our form is the best it's been. This is not an exaggeration. The best form and the best performances on a regular basis that we've done in 7 years. I don't think we've performed as consistently well over an 8 or 10 week period. And that includes that first initial point when Solskjaer came in. That includes the beginning of the second season under Mourinho. I don't think we've played as consistently well over an 8 or 10 week period domestically as we are playing right now. Add that to the 24-hour advantage. Add that as well that I think Wolves are just not quite as good as they were in the Premier League in the previous 2 seasons. I think they were slightly in transition at the moment. They lost a couple of players last summer with Jota. They brought a few players in. And I do think that their squad is a little bit stretched a bit more at the moment. And the 24-hour advantage that we should have and the bigger squad that we undoubtedly have this season compared to any other season I can think of in recent years, I think makes us warm favourites, and I think we're going to win.
Okay, so John says we're guaranteed 3 points. It's going to be 8-0. They won't even be in our half for an extended period of time. Damn, I can't speak today. Natalie, for yourself, home and away form. John made a lot of good points. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I sort of agree with everything that John said. For me, it's something about Old Trafford. I think I don't know what it is. Even when fans are there, I don't know whether they're overawed by it. I don't know, and I don't want to go into it. It might be a bit of a psychology thing because, like you said, how can you be top of one table in terms of form and then 14th in another? It doesn't make sense. So I think there's definitely deeper things at play there. But I think the teams that we've played have been harder at home, so that might be what it's down to. For me, I think we can go on and beat Wolves, though. I watched them the other night. They are a good side. They still have that threat, big, tall players, shooting outside the box. But if you watch that game, really Spurs should have put it out of sight long before. And I think they won't be able to cope with our pace up front. Wolves, I think if we win that midfield battle, I think we're going to win the game. And if Bruno, Pogba, if they play the way they have been playing, for me it's 3 points. Can't see why not.
Yeah, it's it takes you back watching that Spurs game last night. Mourinho going 1 goal up inside 10 minutes and then just holding everything back and not trying to play a forward ball. It reminds me of another club he was at that made me cry a lot. But I enjoyed last night's game. James, for yourself, we've discussed this a few times on the pod before, but home and away form. And listen, the guys here made wonderful points as well. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I won't go too much into it because I'd just be repeating them. I think you have got to look outside of the Premier League as well. Home form in the Champions League and in other cup competitions has been pretty good. We beat Leipzig 5-0 at home. I think people are quick to forget that. So you have just got to look at opposition. Played Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea and City all at home so far. So it'll be interesting to see how we do against Liverpool away. If we beat Liverpool away, then that's when you start thinking maybe we do have a problem at home. But I think just take it as it comes at the minute. 14th is bad, but it couldn't be worse. It could be worse even. Just look at Arsenal, So, yeah, on the home form, that's all I'd say. But I think I'm confident going into the game because obviously we've had a day's extra rest and you've just got to look at the squad depth that Wolves had. I saw their bench for the Spurs game and it's probably one of the worst benches in the Premier League. It might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's very, very poor. I don't think many of them have played many first team minutes for Wolves at all. So, yeah, I think they're going to struggle. The players will be tired, especially relentlessly attacking for 85 minutes like they did against Spurs. That'll take it out of you. And, I think our squad depth and our day extra rest will really come in handy for us.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks so much, guys, for joining us here this afternoon. But before we finish up, we're going to get score predictions. So what do you think the score is going to be? Who's going to be the first goal scorer? John, we know you said 8-0 earlier on, but we'll try to go for something slightly more conservative if possible. What do you think it's going to be?
I've rounded it down to 2-1.
2-1. And first goal scorer?
I think we'll win 2-1. First goal scorer?
Yeah.
Let's go with Cavani because he's going to start.
Cavani. That's good. Natalie, for yourself?
3-1, Bruno.
Beautiful. Nice and safe. James, for yourself?
I'm going to go 3-1 because we're not going to keep a clean sheet, and then I'll go Maguire first goal scorer.
Ooh, I was going to say something like that, but I'm going to go. The host always had to go with the same thing. I'm going to say 3-1. I'm going to say Mason Greenwood with the first goal. So guys, thanks so much. Thanks. Sorry, I just have to line up something here. Yeah. Thanks so much for James for joining me again, for Natalie as well, and for John, the author of Even the Defeats. See, I got it this time. For joining us this afternoon to discuss the preview for the Wolves game. There's plenty of content happening on All For United always, so make sure to go to YouTube to subscribe to All For United. Follow all the wonderful people here on Twitter and follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all those things as well. And also, like I said earlier on, each one of these will put their predicted lineup into the YouTube comments, including me. So pick whichever one you think is the best, which is always mine. Thank you very much. But until then, 3 points are coming, and Happy New Year, everybody.